there, save for the remains of abandoned mining equipment, some rusty drills, huge broken barrels, and whatever tanker pieces hadn't been snatched up by scavengers after the mine dried up. The drone of the radio was cut off by an alert. Incoming call from Cormak. You'd better accept this or you're in for a world of pain. Do you accept? Cormak sighed and mumbled, Accept. What the hell were you thinking? A familiar voice barked. You don't mouth off to clients. What are you talking about, Saul? Cormak asked wearily. The way you spoke to Rella Hewitt was unacceptable, to say nothing of stealing product that she paid for. Cormak stifled a groan. On his way into the Hewitts' building, he'd passed an exhausted-looking girl mopping the floor, a fairly common sight on Deva, where kids often dropped out of school when their parents grew too sick to work. Cormak had offered her a tiny sip of H2O, just enough so she wouldn't collapse before her shift ended. He'd forgotten that the nosy, bored Rella Hewitt often watched her building's security feed, monitoring her neighbors even in the middle of the night. When he'd arrived at her door, she'd spent a good 5 minutes screeching at him before Cormak ended her tirade with a few well-chosen words. I gotta tell you, Saul, it's tough to feel bad for rich people who care more about their exotic plants than settler kids. Unlike the settlers, whose ancestors had arrived on Deva generations ago, most of the wealthy people were recent arrivals from Tri, the Quatra Federation's capital planet. Oh, so now you're gonna get all moral on me, asshole? Your job is to make deliveries and keep your mouth shut. You got it? Got it, Cormak muttered. You're lucky I happen to have a kind, understanding nature. I'm going to give you one more chance. I have a pickup for you tonight at 29 degrees, 22 minutes north, 99 degrees, 48 minutes west. Why don't I hear you pulling over to write that down? 29 degrees, 22 minutes north, 99 degrees, 48 minutes west. Cormak repeated dully. Roger that, Chief. He never forgot coordinates. He had a thing for numbers. He could see them rearranging themselves in his head into all sorts of combinations that allowed him to solve complex equations in seconds. Not that it had done him much good. Because he couldn't show his work on math exams, his teachers always assumed he was cheating. Their skepticism had made his brother, Rex, furious, but Cormak hadn't really cared. Good grades only mattered for people like Rex, the rare student smart enough to catch the instructor's attention and likable enough to justify the endless paperwork, favors, and bribes required to get into an off-planet university or training program. Though in the end, even Rex hadn't made it off Deva. If you mess this up, you're gonna be sorry. I mean it, Cormak. I got it. I'll be there tonight. 29 degrees, 22 minutes north, 99 degrees, 48 minutes west was in Sector 22, where Saul had a contact who imported stolen nanotech from Tri. While water comprised the bulk of Saul's trade, he also dabbled in weapons and had a passion for interstellar crypto commerce. There was a rumor that he'd even hacked the Tridian Bank. Shit! Cormak grunted as his rotor hit another rut and flew into the air. He managed to keep the bike steady, but landed hard enough that the vibrations coursed through his body. He glanced down to check that his pants were still tucked into his boots. Exposed skin allowed the poisonous air to seep into your pores, killing you over the course of a few hours. Deva was naturally toxic to humans. The planet was blanketed with a thick cloud of gas, a combination of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and just enough oxygen to be filtered and piped into vacuum-sealed buildings.